Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 174. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we're talking about Ghost of Yotei, Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Stranger Things 5, Peacemaker Season 2, and more. But as usual, we will begin with our recent activities, and I will go first. I've not seen a movie in a bit, but it's been a busy couple weeks for me. So I managed to read Transformers by Daniel Warren Johnson. I don't read a lot of stuff outside of Marvel and DC, but I'm trying to dive into that. Obviously, this is still a licensed comic book, but I've heard a lot of great things about Daniel Warren Johnson as a writer and also this run on Transformers. The most Transformers thing I know is Transformers 1, and that was a fantastic fucking animated movie. I don't have a lot of nostalgia or memories with the Michael Bay movies, but this book, it's very good. Daniel Warren Johnson, he writes it and he also draws it, which is not normal for the comic book industry. And it just looks beautiful. It's written very well. It's very human, very real. If you want to read something outside of the normal superhero stuff, Transformers is definitely it. Daniel Warren Johnson's run recently just ended, and they got Robert Kirkman and Dan Mora on the next run of it, which is a pretty crazy creative team.
That's crazy, yeah.
To follow up on that, I'm like, okay, yeah. So, but apparently Daniel Warren Johnson's run is still very, very good. I have the other two volumes, and I might get to those soon, but we'll see. And then the other game that I've been playing a lot is Battlefield 6. So my girlfriend is a huge Battlefield girly, if you will. She's been playing it for years and years and years, and I was playing it in the beta, not having the best of times, but when it came out, I subscribed to EA Play for 1 month, so I only paid $18 because I'm not paying 70. And the game is very fun, honestly. Now that I understand that 64 player lobbies, 32 versus 32, and just capturing points and doing all of this other crazy stuff, it's pretty chaotic. The TikTok clips that people post are very, very funny with the SpongeBob memes or whatever audio clips that they use. It is pretty amusing to see what other people are doing within Battlefield 6, but yeah, it's a very fun game. I know that some creators out there have said that oh, there needs to be a ranked mode, there needs to be a BR mode, all of this other crazy nonsense. And I'm like, the game just came out. Let's have EA and the developers cook for a bit to see where they need to go. Obviously, the game is going to get consistent updates with it. Knowing me, because I only subscribed for a month, I don't know if I'm going to keep playing after this, but it is a very, very good time, and this is probably the best time to get into it because people are playing it like it's a fucking full-time job, man. I'm in a lobby, I'm level 10. The other guy on the enemy team's level 50. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Holy shit. Clocking in 9 a.m., clocking out 9 p.m. They are playing it day in, day out, and you know what? Kudos to them. But this is a very fun, just war, I guess, first person shooter. It's not like Call of Duty. You really have to be smart about running in and taking fights because you could peek something and there's going to be 3 to 4 people there and they're going to one shot you instantly. So you definitely do have to play it a little slower, camp a little bit, wait for your timings. And yeah, you got choppers flying around, jets and shit. People are fucking up the goddamn vehicles. I am too. I do not know how to drive anything, but it's just a good time, even though everything's very uncoordinated. Even when I'm losing, as long as I'm playing well, I don't care. Because obviously there's 30-something players on a single team. It's impossible to get a coordinated play going. But, it's just a fun FPS, big old war shooter, if you will. And we haven't really had those in a while, with the whole live service games that are in play right now. There's not really a game like Battlefield ever, because it takes a lot to keep those servers up, to make sure that all 64 players are able to play within a server together, and all of this other maintenance that other studios can't really replicate. So does Battlefield 6 really need ranked, BR mode, all this other stuff? Not really. I think it's fine within its own lane right now. Maybe they could add a sort of BR mode later down the road, but I don't see how that's really necessary. But yeah, so far so good with Battlefield 6. If you want to try it out, I recommend doing EA Play, even though some of my friends last night were telling me that that's a fucking dumb idea to pay $18 to rent a game. And I'm like, but if you don't know if you like it, that's the most affordable way to do it. So
yeah, I mean, especially you, because you were not really that high on the beta to begin with. So it's just was it worth spending the $70? But now that you like it, you could be maybe when it goes on sale, you could get it at some point.
Maybe I'll wait for A holiday sale, maybe? I don't know, because obviously the game just came out. I don't see EA putting it on sale anytime soon. Obviously, I could go to one of those shady key websites and maybe try to get a discount there. But, Battlefield 6, it's a lot of fun, and maybe I'll buy it later down the road for full price.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I played a little bit too. I played during the beta, and I thought it was fun. I don't really play like a lot of shooters like that. I tend to play more like movement shooters or hero shooters. That's usually where I lean more towards. But hey, it was a lot of fun. I mean, the last Battlefield game I played was like Bad Company 2 on like the 360.
Yeah. And
I had fun with that. Also, like fucking Battlefield Heroes. It was like a PC browser game. That one was fun as hell. That was really fun. But yeah, Battlefield 6 I thought was a good time. Again, I can't really comment, and Travis can't either, being like, oh, where the series went downhill and shit, because I don't know enough about the series for that. But playing through the beta, I thought it was a lot of fun, just being with your squad, resin people, or I like to play as the engineer and just like kill tanks, or repair tanks as well. So yeah, it was a good time. I'll probably think about it once it goes on sale or something to like play a bit more of it, because yeah, it was pretty fun. So good on DICE and EA for actually making a good Battlefield game for once. All right, so for what I've been doing, a lot of Switch stuff. Well, I've been playing a ton of Ghost of Yotei, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But for secondary stuff, I was playing the, I guess new is kind of a strong word for this, but Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on Switch and Switch 2.
Yeah.
So, these obviously, generated a lot of controversy due to their pricing. And yes, $70 for both of them is quite a lot. Actually, it's a lot for a game like this. But they did touch it up a bit more than I thought they would. On the Switch 2, it actually looks great. The colors really pop. They actually redid a bunch of textures. Like, obviously, it's not like a full-blown remake or even like a remaster, like the Metroid Prime remaster that came out. That one was great. That like retouched a lot of things, and it just felt like a new game. This still feels like Mario Galaxy, but everything pops a bit more. Digital Foundry did a video with a side-by-side, and yeah, a lot of the textures have been improved. I think some of the lighting has been improved. Obviously, new control schemes. You could play with the dual Joy-Cons just like the old times, or you could play with a Pro Controller. And I decided to play with a Pro Controller just to see how it would feel, and surprisingly, it works really well. I was just going to do it as a joke and be like, okay, I probably should use two Joy-Cons for this because, like Wiimote and Nunchuck. But the Pro Controller works very well. The gyro, like, controls where the cursor is, so you could, get the star bits and stuff. And you can press the right shoulder button to recenter the cursor because it does kind of go all over the place once you're, like, sitting on your couch or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and, doing all the motion-based minigames also works really well. Like the stupid ball shit, when you're on the ball, you just kind of hold the Pro Controller like this and do that. Or with the Manta Ray, you kind of just like do this shit. It looks dumb, but it works surprisingly well. I was pretty pleased with that. And yeah, besides that, it's Mario Galaxy, right? So I was only gonna play a little bit of it, but I ended up got like 70 stars because I just know that game very well and I could do that pretty fast. So yeah, I mean, Galaxy is like my favorite game of all time, right? Like playing that game makes me so much joy. Like I love it so much. I feel like this game is definitely worth it if you have as much of a nostalgia boner for it like me, or if you haven't played these games at all, right? Like I know, these games came out almost like 20 years ago at this point, which is fucking crazy to think about, but it's been a really long time. So I feel like if you never played these games before, like maybe you never had a Wii or you're younger, I think it's worth it. Getting like probably the two best 3D platformers of all time for $70. I think that's pretty fair. At least if you've never played it before. If you have played Galaxy 1 before, I'll say like maybe get Galaxy 2 by itself because, for a lot of people, they haven't played that recently and it hasn't been re-released in a long time. I mean, I'm excited to play Galaxy 2 again eventually because, again, I haven't played that game since like 2010, since it came out. So I'm very excited to do that. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the remaster in general. Again, could they have done more with it? Could they have made it like a full-blown remake? Yeah. But I think for what it is, like Galaxy is already such a good game to begin with. Like it didn't really need much more help besides like a bit of a graphical boost. And even then, the game still looks great, even without all these fancy textures or whatever. So yeah, Galaxy 1 and 2, I think they're still great. If they're worth the price, that's definitely going to be up to you to decide that. But for me, it was worth it because I fucking love Galaxy.
Yeah.
So,
because, when it comes to the whole price debate, just real quick, right? Because you have to get a Wii or a Wii U. And obviously that's like a whole not arm and a leg, but that's a whole hurdle that you have to get over. And then you also have to go and get the games, which are pretty cheap considering the other alternative, which is getting it on the Switch for $70. But if you already own a Switch, then yeah, this is going to be the most accessible and easiest way to enjoy these two games that are considered some of the best within the 3D platforming genre. I definitely was supposed to play it for this podcast episode, but I just did not have enough time between everything going on within my life. But yeah, I am personally excited to jump back into these two games, despite me owning Galaxy One on the All Stars collection for so many years and just never really playing it. Just seeing how they improved these two games on the Switch 2, I'm kind of excited for.
Yeah, it's a good time. So second thing I did for like 30 minutes before the podcast started was Pokemon Legends EA. So I was supposed to get this yesterday during launch day, but Best Buy sucks ass and I didn't get it. So today I just drove to fucking GameStop and got it. So now I have it. So yeah, I just wanted to play like a little bit of it just to get a feel for it and just like see how the new combat system works. And yeah, basically this is a new Legends Pokemon game. This is probably the first time in a while that a Pokemon game has launched not running like ass. Since I'm playing the Switch 2 version, it runs at a steady 60 frames. From what I've seen, the little I've seen right now, it runs like a dream. Obviously, like a lot of the textures still look kind of gross, right? Like everything's like a flat texture. Everyone pointed out on Twitter where a lot of the buildings don't really have dedicated, like, I guess, fixtures or other models to it. It's just like a flat fucking texture. So it could look a little ugly, but it looks better than probably most of the other console Pokemon games at the moment. And performance-wise, it's such a big boost. Scarlet and Violet, I played that on the original Switch, and it ran like absolute ass. And it looked bad too, right? I know the Switch 2 version of Scarlet and Violet works a lot better, which is great. But also Legends Arceus also ran amazing as well. So being able to play a Pokemon game that doesn't run like absolute dick is great. So that's good.
Yeah.
Another thing I got to experience was the new combat system. So this game is not turn-based anymore. It is a real-time like sort of combat system. So you would send out your Pokemon, and your Pokemon and trainer would like run together. And each move is kind of like telegraphed, right? So if you're doing like a tackle or some other move, your trainer could kind of like move out of the way and like dodge it with your Pokemon, so you could avoid damage. I think some moves like auto target, but I know some of the bigger moves like they have like a big charge up time, so you have enough time to like get out of the way. And also because it's a real time game, the moves like kind of don't work the same way. So it kind of works more like Xenoblade now, where each move has like a cooldown timer. So like tackle, for instance, I believe is like 4 seconds to use it. You can use like tail whip, and that's like maybe like 8 seconds to do like a debuff. And I actually really like this system because it lets you really use all the moves without feel like you're wasting a turn. I think as a kid, a lot of kids like just don't use status moves. Like they don't use like tail whip. They don't use like growl because like why would I do that if I could keep attacking? And I mean that's fair. Those moves do suck. But there's other really good setup moves like Swords Dance and Dragon Dance where a lot of younger players just won't use it. But for this game, it's kind of teaching you like you could kind of rotate all your abilities at once. So you can use Swords Dance and then you can still tackle in like the same amount of time. And I think that would help a lot of players to be like, hey, I should use these other fucking moves that I have on my Pokemon. And that's cool. Obviously, I haven't experienced, switching Pokemon out yet or Mega Evolution. I know Mega Evolution kind of changed in this game compared to how it worked in the Gen 6 game. So I'm excited for that. And it just seems like in general, this game is a lot more about combat than catching, which I find interesting since Legends Arceus is all about catching Pokemon. There was maybe like a few trainer battles in that game, but it was mostly about like completing the Pokedex. You had a bunch of like Pokedex challenges you had to do, and I really enjoyed that. But this game is kind of like the opposite, where it's all about fighting this time and like using this new combat system. So I'm really excited to dive more into this game. I've been hearing honestly like a lot of good things on Twitter about it, which is surprising because usually when Pokemon stuff comes out, people like dunk on it. But I'm surprised that people are actually having a ton of fun with this game. So I'm excited to really get my teeth in there. So yeah.
All right, and now let's talk about Ghost of Yotei. We have not finished it.
No.
I'm very far behind compared to Damian. I'm like
I played a lot.
I'm like 12 to 13 hours in, but just based on those impressions of me going through the first boss that you have to kill, and then just exploring, I'm still trying to figure out how to fight the Kitsune. This game is very good. I know that there has been some negativity towards it of it being like, oh, it's not as good as Ghost of Tsushima or X, Y, and Z or whatever the case is. I just find this to be a really good open world game, and I could be saying that as a Sucker Punch fanboy. Just view it as you will, but honest to God, whenever we go into these other like PlayStation Studios, like big, massive open world games, right? I think about Spider-Man 2, right? Like whenever you would play that game, it was very clear what was a main mission versus a side mission because it felt very disconnected from like the overall narrative. So whenever stuff comes up within Ghost of Yotei, it feels like it's part of the main adventure, even though it's not, right? Like you are doing this side thing to learn another technique or another weapon, or you're just fleshing out the world, getting to know these characters. And yeah, I mean, it just feels like one of the best open world games that I played as of recently, because whenever I'm going to like a main objective, something always pops up, whether it's a camp or like the little gold bird pops up. I'm like, well, I guess I'm following this little guy to go and see where they're going to take me. It always feels like that there's always something going on within this world, and it feels very much alive. And, I don't remember much of Ghost of Tsushima, admittedly, because it's been so long since I played it, but Ghost of Yotei just feels very, very polished and one of the best open world games under PlayStation's library right now.
Yeah, I mean, I basically feel the same way. I could get why some people are maybe a bit disappointed or, maybe a bit more negative towards this game, because this game is a very iterative sequel. Like, it doesn't really do a ton new on the surface, but I feel like the open world, like you were talking about, definitely feels more alive than it did in the first game, because the first game still had like the wind and it still had like the golden birds that guide you around. I remember that from the original game. But in this one, I feel like everything kind of like connects to the main story. So all the camps, all the like either relates to Atsu's trauma or it relates to the Yōtei 6. Either we're taking them down, or a lot of the myth quests you could do kind of relate back to Atsu's sort of struggle with revenge and like how that sort of plays into the main story. And I like how everything feels like it kind of just feels very cohesive in this game, and I think that's great. And like you said, you can't really go 10 seconds without running into something in the open world, which is great. I feel like the problem with a lot of bigger open world games is, you kind of just run around not doing anything for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Like you're just running around. In this game, you always have something popping up. Like you got like a shrine to do, you could fight an enemy camp, you got unique quests you could do. And I think that really adds a lot to make the world very addicting to explore and do all the map markers. And that's kind of why I've been doing everything. Like I have around like almost 40 hours in this game. And that's just from like basically 100%ing like each area. Just because I think it's a ton of fun. I felt that way about Ghost of Tsushima, and this game I feel even more so, because I feel like the activities definitely feel a bit more varied than they did. Like you still have the same old stuff, like defeat enemy camps, do the painting, which is like the haikus from the first game. So you have a lot of really similar objectives, but everything just kind of feels better to do, if that makes sense. I also feel like the biomes feel more distinct. So like the first area is your standard grassland, and then on the upper left where you fight the Oni, it's like more like autumny and more like fire based, because the Oni's all about the fire. And then the areas to the right are more snowy or maybe like more farmland. So I feel like each area feels very distinct. And I didn't really feel that way about Ghost of Tsushima. I feel like everything kind of felt the same in that game in terms of like traversal. In this game, each biome feels very distinct, which makes the game feel more fresh to like kind of go to these new areas and do everything, right?
Yeah.
And besides that, like, the gameplay wise, it still feels great. Like, it's very similar to Tsushima, except this time Atsu could use different weapons instead of stances. And I think that, it's basically the same thing where each stance, each weapon is good against like a certain weapon type. But now you use different weapons to have like more unique move sets, which I think is just better, right? Like the stances did the same thing, just didn't look as cool. So yeah, I think gameplay wise, it's a good improvement.
Getting like a whole new weapon to try out to show that, hey, like if you use this thing, it's good against shield enemies, or if you use the double swords, that's good against the sort of staff people. I'm like, oh, okay, like now you have to think about it more when you're fighting enemies, and what's good against what, as long as you remember that. And just like the combat in and of itself, it's not, a walk in the park. It's still very much kind of Souls-like, where you have to block, you have to parry, you can't just mash your way to victory, and you are going to get jumped on by numerous enemies all at once, so you really have to pay attention to what's happening. When I first started, I was like, oh, let me go and turn on the sort of lock-on feature, because that isn't on by default. And I was using that for like the first hour or two, and then I stopped because I was like, there's just so much shit going on. I can't just focus on one guy. I have to jump back and forth between them because, attacks are going to be coming out of nowhere, and I need to see everything within the arena. And yeah, just exploration, the combat in and of itself. One thing I will give Sucker Punch a lot of credit for is the use of the DualSense. I have not seen any other, maybe the Astrobot devs, but other than them, none of the other PlayStation Studios developers have used DualSense like Sucker Punch has. Literally everything on the controller is used to its full extent. You could skip a lot of like the motion control stuff if you really wanted to, but every single time they come up, I'm like, you know what? Let me go and make this fire real quick. Let me go and, use the adaptive triggers for this thing. It is just a lot of fun and kind of cute in a way that they're able to get the most out of this controller. That feels like something that a lot of devs are just forgetting about or not really utilizing all that much.
Yeah, it's something that, you brought up, like not a lot of developers really use on the PS5. And, it kind of sucks because we're like, we're almost at the end of this generation. And I feel like not a lot of game devs have really used the haptics like too well. Like I think Rift Apart use the haptics in some cool ways with some guns. Like I know the shotgun, you could like hold it halfway to shoot like one barrel, and then if you put it all the way, you could shoot both barrels and like one of the shotguns in that game. But yeah, for the most part, not a lot of games have been using it, as well as Sucker Punch has been using it with Ghost of Yotei. So I give them credit. Like this is a brilliantly crafted game. The open world's fun to go through. The combat's a ton of fun. I love the builds you could kind of do in this game because you get a bunch of charms and armors in this game. And I found a really awesome charm where your heavy bow could lock on to like 3 different guys. So you could just like shoot 3 dudes in the head and like just kill them instantly. It's amazing. I love it. So for the quick fire weapons, you have like the kunais, and you get like the blinding dust and the you get something else I'm forgetting, but it's really fun just to combo that with all the heavy weapon strikes. Each weapon has a focus attack if you hold triangle, so you could do these big heavy moves. They're kind of hard to pull off like in the middle of combat, but like my favorite weapon, I don't know if you got it, it's like the chain blade thing where you have like I love that weapon. Being able to go and do like sort of ranged stealth attacks is awesome. Being able to do like big crowd control abilities is great. So yeah, the combat is just great. And I guess like the last thing we haven't really touched on is the story. I know people kind of like ragged on Ghost of Tsushima's story. I've always liked it. I thought it was good. It wasn't nothing like revolutionary or anything, but I thought it was a fun time. Like I like Jin Sakai as a protagonist, and I like his, struggles about being a samurai or a ghost and dealing with his family troubles. Like I thought it was all pretty well done. This game sort of takes a different approach where Atsu is more, this is very much a revenge story. And I know some people kind of roll their eyes on that because, Last of Us Part 2 already did that. And, people are kind of sick of it. And, and I think the main point of revenge stories is like, oh, revenge bad, right? Like that's kind of where it always leads up to. And yeah, that is fair to say. But I feel like unlike Last of Us Part 2, this game does beat you over the head that revenge is bad, but I feel like a lot of the optional quests and a lot of the main quests have been kind of giving different perspectives of like how revenge is bad. Like you either see characters going through it and how their lives basically got destroyed from it. Like a lot of the myth quests, like I was talking about, kind of deal with that. Like they deal with the consequences of going after revenge and how to kind of ruin your life. And even with a lot of the weapon masters that you meet, like the dual sword guy, like he's just kind of living his life as a hermit now after failing to kill Saito. So I feel like a lot of these things kind of like build more into Atsu's sort of mindset of like what it means for like what revenge means to her. Because I feel like with Last of Us Part 2, it's very heavy handed with it. And the game isn't as long as this game is. So I feel like the message gets like a little more beat into your head like often. So, but again, I can see why people are not super into the story because it is, again, another pretty basic revenge story. But I think it's done pretty well for the most part. Like now that I've played more of the main story, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like what they're doing here. So,
yeah. when it comes to Yōtei versus Tsushima narrative wise, I always liked Tsushima's story. It wasn't necessarily amazing or groundbreaking. When it comes to Sucker Punch's like main, I guess like franchises that they've worked on, Sly Cooper, Infamous, and now the Ghost series, I definitely will say that the Ghost series doesn't really have a super strong narrative. It does seem like not necessarily surface level stuff, but things that we may have seen before. So in the case of Yōtei, it's like, oh yeah, this is like a revenge story. She's going after the Yōtei 6. She's going to kill all of them. And we're just going on that journey with her to get to that point. And how does she get there? We just have to find out as we play as the player. And yeah, there are subtleties within the side missions to show the other side of revenge, whether they failed or they achieved, or maybe someone within their lives have really gone on the path of hatred and anger because of something that happened to them. Yotei's story so far, it's fine. I think the way that they're approaching this revenge story is handled pretty well. I like that whenever we go back into Atsu's past and we get to see how she was introduced to Saito and how she's the one that brought down her own family and brought them to her own home, and how she has to live with that guilt as she's going on this path for revenge. It's like, oh, okay, like I like that. It's getting interesting. They're really placing these flashback sequences smartly, even though everyone's experience is not going to be paced the exact same, depending on how much side stuff you do, right? And the fact that you could go after any one of the Yōtei 6 after the first one you kill is a very interesting move. It's obviously like a double-edged sword kind of deal, because obviously there's going to be some of those players that are just going to go straight after the story. It's probably going to be a lot harder for them because they're not going to get all of the weapon upgrades and just more experience and more handling of like the combat and all of that stuff. But some people are going to do that. And then you have pretty much everyone else that's going after the side things when they pop up in front of their face, or they're going out of their way, going to the map, marking it there, and then just going to it, right? So, Ghost of Yotei's story so far, I mean, like I said, I'm only like 13 hours in, which is like still pretty early on. It's good. I definitely still like something like Infamous or something like Sly Cooper, where it's a lot more, I guess, comic booky, actiony kind of. But then again, like we are dealing with like fucking feudal Japan type of shit, and this is a revenge story set within that time. And I think for what they wanted to do, I think it is executed very well.
But overall, I'm having a really good time with it. Obviously, I put in a bunch more time than Travis. I put like 40 hours into the fucking game. Yeah. So there's obviously a ton to do, right? Like there's a ton to do. If you're worried about getting your money's worth, don't worry about that. I think to like fully 100% the game's at least 60 hours. So it's a big boy game. So, I think like out of all the open world Sony games, like Horizon, Spider-Man, and this, I do think Sucker Punch has made the better open world game. Like Spider-Man's is like pretty small, all things considered, compared to like Horizon and this game. And I feel like Horizon's open world activities do feel a bit more stale compared to Ghost of like Tsushima and Yōtei. So, I give it to Sucker Punch for really making this open world feel great to explore, ton of activities to do, the gameplay. Like, honestly, it might be my favorite combat system out of any of the first party Sony stuff. Like, I think there's a lot of like more strategic stuff you could do. The combat is like pretty challenging, even on normal. Like, it could kind of kick your butt if you're not careful with what you're doing. So, overall, I think Sucker Punch has done it again. I'm really excited to see the ending of this game and see what they do next. Since I think recently they put out a interview being like they are a one game studio, so they're kind of gonna figure out what game to do next. And everyone's like, Sly, gotta be Sly, right? I'm like, guys,
it's because he mentioned Sly Cooper.
He mentioned Sly. I don't know why he would do that. I'm like, don't give us hope, bro.
We'll talk about that next time when we actually finish the game and, maybe theorize about what Sucker Punch can do. But yeah, the game is a lot of fun. This definitely fits Kofi's criteria of $1 an hour kind of deal. You can definitely get 70 hours worth on this game if you go for 100%. There's so much to do here. And, the game is difficult as well. I tried to go after the first Saito mission, like kind of early on. I was like, let me go and see how this is going to go. They threw way too many enemies at me. And I was like, yep, I'm fucking abandoning this mission and I'm going back. Going to try to figure out what the other bosses are. But yeah, I should hopefully finish the game by next podcast, and Damian should as well. Then we'll talk about the story and everything beyond Sucker Punch for their future, and maybe Sly Cooper. Who the fuck knows? But yeah. analysts talk about Peacemaker season 2, the finale. I know we're a little late, but there were some controversial things on Twitter about this because people were like,
Yep.
"Oh, it's not like the big fucking finale that they were expecting or whatever." I mean, just watching it, this being the longest episode of the season, I believe, there was obviously a lot of stuff that they had to close out with. And it was going to be impossible for them to do it within one season, especially since a lot of the more interesting aspects of it have to do with the other dimension. And it feels like that they just capped all of that stuff off within episode 7. It might come back in the future. Who knows? James Gunn has confirmed that there's no plans for season 3 as of right now. So it's kind of in a weird limbo spot for Peacemaker as a show and as a character as well. But, I still think that there were some good character moments and good scenes here. I just wish that there was more resolution with the other dimensional stuff, because I think that that's where this season really shined. And, Chris Smith, Peacemaker, he's not a main protagonist in a lot of the season, I felt. There's obviously stuff with his past and him dealing with his trauma again, but it doesn't feel like a main focal point, I would say, around like the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I feel like this season was more about like building up all the characters, Chris Smith in general, not just Peacemaker, and like his whole gang of friends, rather than just being about him or like the alternate Earth. So it just seemed like it was balancing a ton this season. But I feel like the overarching like theme of this season was the characters. Like, I feel like everything else felt secondary, and I think that's where some people were getting disappointed, which is fair. I feel like the first season was pretty standard, like what you would expect from a superhero show. Like, you have your gang of buddies, they're all fighting the aliens, the Project Monarch. It was a pretty simple like premise to understand, and it was just like a pretty engaging like miniseries, right? Now we go into this season where it was definitely more about Chris Smith rather than Peacemaker, and I think some people were kind of just disappointed with like how little action there was, and like how, I guess, like little things there were in terms of like just like overall DCU stuff. I do think that is partially because like I like season 2 quite a bit. Like I did like season 2 of Peacemaker, right? But I do think people were like kind of right to be disappointed, because James Gunn really did overhype it a ton. Before this came out, he was like, this is gonna be the biggest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and it was just like it wasn't. So I don't know why he overhyped it as much as he did, but I don't know. Overall, I still enjoyed it quite a bit. This last episode was definitely more about just getting all the characters in a healthy like mindset. All of them kind of went through their arcs. Hardcore finally moved past the whole boat thing with Chris, and like their relationship seems to be better. Chris, that his whole focal point was this episode, and like making sure he's not like this broken guy anymore. Ads broke up with her girlfriend, and then like she's getting better of like being herself. So all these characters seem to be getting their big resolutions in this season. And then I would say season 3, but I don't know what they're going to do now. Maybe a movie? I'm not too sure. But it seems like that would kind of like push forward to whatever the next project is. So I thought I really did enjoy it, because, people were really ragging on this online. Like, people hated this finale. So I was kind of worried to like watch it. I'm like, oh no, like I hope it's good. And then I ended up enjoying it. Like, I do wish it did more with the alternate Earth, and like I wish that was just more of the season to begin with. Like, it really should have been. But, I think for what they did, I think it was still pretty good. It was a pretty slow season, and not a lot truly happened, but I think it was still good for a lot of the characters. But yeah, I could definitely see the criticisms of it being like, not enough things happening.
Yeah, with the whole Hardcore and Chris's sort of fallout and their resolution, that was sort of being alluded to throughout the entire season, right? Because the season begins and it's like they're not really on talking terms. So we're all just trying to piece that together, and where does it lead to? It's like, oh yeah, they went to a concert and then they kissed, and then Hardcore was being weird about it, which is fair. And I was like, yeah, I guess. But, it still feels like that there should have been maybe a little bit more to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just felt like that there was a lot of hype, and not hype, but like a lot of build up to that. And then it just wasn't necessarily the payoff that I was expecting. And obviously a lot of people were just upset with the whole finale in and of itself. But, them making their own agency and sort of having them get the happy ending until Chris gets fucking kidnapped and thrown into salvation by Mr. Rick Flag Sr. I guess, that's not necessarily something that I would have seen coming, but knowing that there's not going to be anything Peacemaker related in the works as of right now, it's like, okay, well, what the fuck are they going to do? How the hell is he going to get out of there? What is going to happen within Salvation? What is so special about Salvation? How is this going to relate to the future of the DCU as James Gunn has been putting it for, so long, right? Season 2 definitely fell a little bit more sporadic in its pacing and sort of its moments. Obviously, there was that whole reveal within episode 6, and then obviously episode 7 with the whole fallout of that. But it just felt like it was trying to do a lot. And I know I watched a couple of interviews that James Gunn was having trouble writing this season, but he knows that he had to write it just to like get it done and over with. And maybe there should have been a little bit more time in the writer's room, if you will, just with the season as a whole.
Yeah, like he probably could have like just held it off until it was like he was fully done with Superman. But I guess he's busy like doing the rest of the DCU now. So like he kind of had to get this out of the way. So I kind of get it. But also at the same time, like I wish he kind of had his full attention to it. Because I think he's only directed like 3 episodes this season. Like I believe it was like episode 7 or 6 and then the last episode, and I think like episode 1 I think those were the only episodes he directed.
You were correct.
So it's a bit unfortunate because I believe in the first season he directed like all of them for the most part, except maybe like 1 or 2 episodes. So it really shows that he was wearing himself a little too thin because what we talked about, this is kind of the downside of him being such a big figure with the DCU and him like to being so hands-on is he can't like really stretch himself out too thin. Kevin Feige doesn't really like write or like he's kind of just like the planner. Like he makes sure like everything is in place for the MCU, which goes to have its own drawbacks as we're seeing, but nothing feels like that cohesive or like the product like quality could really degrade because like there's no central figure. But for James Gunn, like he wants to be involved personally in every project he does, but then like that means he could really wear himself out thin if he's doing a bunch of projects at once, right? So it kind of shows with this show the most because I feel like this could have been like half the length and we could have gotten the same like resolution as we did in the finale, right? So I feel like we probably should have spent a lot more time on the alternate Earth. Should have like a more like I guess more action, more stuff happening with like Nazi Earth and like a full resolution to that. And then like you could probably still end it in this cliffhanger if you wanted to, but not having any confirmation that season 3 is happening does kind of sting because I'm like, what, you're just gonna throw Peacemaker in like this weirdo alien planet and like that's it? I'm like, okay. So I'm sure we're gonna get a movie or something that explains what's gonna happen to him and the rest of the gang, but it's pretty unfortunate. Like that's just kind of just how it ends, and mostly because we have no confirmation of like if we're getting to season 3 or not. So I guess we'll see. I guess I'll trust James Gunn to see what he does, but yeah.
This one just shows that James Gunn isn't necessarily perfect in everything he does within the DCU, that he does have some faults about him. But I'm still excited to see what's going to happen next for these characters, whether they appear within a Peacemaker season 3 or within the other movies, just to make everything feel as cohesive as possible, because I will give him credit on that. It does feel like a really well-connected universe in and of itself compared to Marvel, that has been obviously doing this for years and years and years, but it feels very disconnected as of recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the news of things within gaming and entertainment. First up, we got the Nintendo Close to You animation video. No one knew what the fuck this thing was about. So they released this first one, which just had a bunch of things moving around. Some people were able to spot Pikmin in the background, and then it was like, oh shit, is this like a Pikmin 5 teaser? And then they released a version with the Pikmin in it, but it's not on their YouTube channel anymore. I don't know what happened.
It's only on the Nintendo app thing.
Okay.
So
there's that. But this was just them doing like a quick little short video to show that, hey, we have this Nintendo's picture thing, and we're making these really cool animations, and it is very high quality, I will admit. I just wish it was something Pikmin 5 related, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It just came out like, dude, the discourse on this for like a day was crazy because everyone's like, oh, it's baby Rosalina. No, it's Pikmin. No, it's all this. And I'm just like, bro, I don't know. I was leaning more towards the Pikmin angle myself. And then once, the next day came over, it was about Pikmin. Everyone like lost their mind. But then Nintendo was like, yeah, this has nothing to do with a game. This is just like, oh, we're doing like an animation thing now. So that's cool. So yeah, Nintendo always works in such weird ways where it's like, here's a thing that we're going to tease something, but it's not about a game. It's just like some random shit. So here you go. I mean, like you said, it is a good animation. Like it looks nice. I'm sure they could do nice little shorts. And, it's not like Nintendo never did animated shorts before. During the 3DS, they had a bunch of short. They had the Pikmin shorts during the 3DS era as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sort of like I guess to advertise Pikmin 3 in a way, but they just did random Pikmin shorts. They had like the Nintendo TV shit on the 3DS and Wii U. I think that's what it was. It's been so long, but yeah, that's kind of what they're doing here, I guess. So kind of cool. I think it's just to give extra content for that Nintendo Today app, because if anyone re-uploads the Pikmin version of this video anywhere else, it gets taken down. Like they want you to fucking watch it on the Nintendo Today app. So there you go. There's a reason for that to exist, even though it's dumb. But yeah, it's a cute little video. You see some Pikmin running around. Hopefully we get Pikmin 5 at some point. But honestly, Pikmin 4 was such a good game, and I don't know where did you even take the series after that point. So, but more Pikmin, that's always good, and it has the benefit of being Miyamoto's favorite. So there you go. Alrighty, so. Next, we got some crazy news. So Ubisoft canceled a post-Civil War Assassin's Creed last year. So the reasoning for this was Ubisoft said the political climate in America isn't great right now, and they don't want to do something like this to sort of stoke the flames. Obviously, that's bad because like who are we upsetting? The KKK? It's like, yeah, probably. I don't really know how else to say it. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. Now, Ubisoft, when it comes to like more political stuff in their games, it's always been very milquetoast. Like it's always been like, hey, like kind of centricity about it. Like I know Far Cry 5 is like kind of weird with it because that game is all about like the like hillbilly ass family in that game you had to fight, and then it got weird in the end. Like I played a little bit of that. It was weird. And I know some of the other games could be kind of weird with their political takes. Like they feel like they never want to take a stance on anything. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure this game would have been really awkward with its subject matter as well. But still, like it's still a great theme for like a game idea. Like, oh, like a Civil War, like Assassin's Creed game, like post Civil War. Like that's really cool. But it's very unfortunate that they had to cancel it due to stupid shit. But that's where we're at.
Yeah, so GameFile talked to some former and current Ubisoft employees, and they confirmed that there was a Reconstruction era Assassin's Creed where you would play as a black man who was formerly a slave in the South, and he would move to start a new life, and then he would return to the South to fight for justice in a conflict that would be, among other things, see him confront the emergence of the KKK. So yeah, it seems like that the backlash that they received for the reveal of Yasuke within Assassin's Creed Shadows was one of the reasons, and then just the political climate within the US just being increasingly tense. I mean, look, we're not gonna fucking beat a goddamn bush over here, like we are very like woke, if you will. We are very sympathetic towards people. I will say that. For the emergence of just like the whole political climate within the US that we see every single day. There's always a new clip of the current administration doing some dumbass fuck ass shit. So for Ubisoft to really have this concept of a game that is really cool and really fascinating, especially for today, and them to be like, you know what, we're not going to do that because people are upset. And I'm like, well, the wrong people are upset. I think this game would have been a huge statement for Ubisoft and just like gaming in general, because there's those commentators out there, not going to name them, but you know who you are. There's commentators out there within the gaming community that are very much on that spectrum where they're like, oh my God, the goddamn Ghost of Yotei has a fucking woman. What are we going to do? It's like, okay, well, play a game with a man. There's like 20 billion of those out there. You want to play as a man within the Ghost series? You have Jin Sakai within Ghost of Tsushima. And it just seems like that this was such a cool Assassin's Creed concept, because the last Assassin's Creed game that I truly played was Assassin's Creed 3, which, retold the story of the American Revolution, maybe not one-to-one, obviously, make it a little bit more Assassin's Creedy, if you will, but it was still a fascinating take on that part of history, not just because I was learning it within high school at that time, but also just like a really cool way to demonstrate that era of American history. And for them to once again jump back into that and then just abandon it just because of the things that are going on within today, it just seems stupid and really bending to the knee to the wrong people.
Basically, yeah. Like it just seems so weird to do that, and it's annoying that the Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy like really hit them in like the wrong place. Where I'm like, nah, like come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's just very unfortunate, and it seems like a lot of devs at Ubisoft are really disappointed in this decision as well. And I'm glad this sort of like came out because hopefully they could reverse it. Because again, I think that is a really cool idea for an Assassin's Creed game. Because like I said, Assassin's Creed 3 that did the American Revolution bit. I think I don't really play Assassin's Creed, so I'm not too sure. But he plays like a Native American during that time. Like that's cool. It could have been like sort of similar to that. But yeah, I guess not. So we'll see what Ubisoft does. I highly doubt they're going to reverse this decision because, they like the money, I guess. And that's kind of just where the winds are blowing at the moment, unfortunately. But
yeah.
And, I know some people are like, you could criticize Ubisoft for a bunch of things with like the game design and stuff. But I do think a lot of the themes they pick for the games are pretty damn cool. So it sucks that this game has to get shelved due to dumb shit, but here we are.
Yeah, I definitely want to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's just that when it came out, it was just not within my agenda, if you will. Like I just didn't have time for it. But I'm still looking out for it to hopefully pick it up on a sale one of these days because Yasuke's a cool fucking character. So,
yep.
Next bit of news we got here is some entertainment stuff. So Marvel released a trailer for Wonder Man. This is their next Disney Plus show. It's going to release January 27th at 6 p.m. PT. 8 episodes, 30 minutes each. This follows a coming up actor within Hollywood. It's kind of like a meta thing. I forget what show's out right now that's kind of like a meta thing also, but apparently they've had this filmed and ready to go for a while now. It's just that now they're releasing it because this is like part of the last batch, I believe, of the way they would do the Marvel Disney Plus shows before, which was a little bit more high budget, a little bit more not street level kind of deal. And now after this show, I'm pretty sure everything within like Daredevil, Defenders, Jessica Jones is going to be within the Marvel Disney Plus show realm. So this is going to be like the last batch of that. So I wonder how this is going to play out because the lead actor, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but he's very, very good. Every single time I see him within projects, he always does a stand-up job. So I wonder how Wonder Man is going to do because he seems very dedicated to this role because I think he was on the red carpet for a recent Marvel thing and he was in character as Wonder Man. So, it seems like that they are playing into this, but I have a feeling that this is going to be one of the less popular Disney Plus shows, not because of political reasons, but just because this is like one of the last Marvel Disney Plus shows from that era.
Yeah, and probably because it does not connected to anything. Like Daredevil has a bunch of hype behind it and like people are ready to watch Born Again. This one does seem like it's gonna like fly under the radar. I mean, it looks kind of cool. It seems like a very not Marvel thing. Just watching the trailer, I'm like, this feels like not even like a Disney Plus Marvel thing. Like it feels like its own thing entirely, which I guess is fitting the bill for being like this meta commentary on getting the part of a superhero that you want to play as and fighting for that like role or whatever. So definitely a unique trailer. Like there's a lot of people in the comments being very confused because I'm also like, what's going on? So hopefully it's just a good show. Like I said, I don't need everything to be connected to the MCU, even though it probably is going to be connected to the MCU. I just kind of want it to be like its own cool thing and just be like a good show on itself. Like it's like that, what was it called? That werewolf thing they released like 2 Halloweens ago. I don't remember. Like that was cool. It was like it's just its own little thing. It was like a unique thing that they just put out on Disney Plus, and it was just like a cool little project, right? So I don't know if they probably have more ambitions for this thing because like 8 episodes, but it seems cool. So I guess we'll see it when it comes out on January, I believe. Yeah. So, and like you said, this is probably like the last of the old Disney Plus Marvel content that they have. So going forward, it probably is going to be very like sort of Defender space, I believe, going forward. Because I don't know what else they're really making. I forgot what their slate for Disney Plus shows besides Daredevil even is. Besides like Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So, but yeah, I do think the newer shows are a lot better, but we'll see how this one fares, compared to like some of the newer content coming out. But yeah, I'm kind of ready for this old era of the Disney Plus Marvel stuff to like be over, so we could like sort of just move on from that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of like the new stuff, Daredevil Born Again season 2, look at that, confirmed for March 4th, 2026. So yeah, this is exactly 1 year from the season 1 date. It's probably also going to be around the same time slot, like that 9 p.m. slot that we're used to. So that's good. But it's going to be on Wednesdays apparently. So
yeah.
But yeah. Usually these shows come out around like 9 p.m. and then go have fun and theorize and all that stuff. But I know there was like a leaked trailer that was coming out from Comic-Con. I didn't watch it, but
Yes.
like I think there was like a leaked trailer, and I think it was from someone.
So apparently at New York Comic Con, which I attended on Sunday, I'm not going to talk about it here. I have a whole vlog on my main channel if you want to check it out.
Go watch it.
But so what happened was they did a panel on Saturday for the Marvel television stuff. They talked about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Wonder Man, Daredevil, and I think X-Men 97. And for the Daredevil trailer, there was security walking around making sure no one was fucking filming, making sure no one caught a sort of glimpse of this trailer on a footage. One of the very early leak versions of it is someone like going in and out with like their phone, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like they are trying to not get caught here, but you could hear the trailer kind of. And then apparently Kristen Ritter just posted it on her fucking Instagram story, and then it was like, okay, well now you could see like the later half of the trailer when her character comes out, Jessica Jones, and all that shebang. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm super duper hyped on Daredevil Born Again. I recently met with Charlie Cox and Deborah Ann Woll when I was at New York Comic Con, so that was fucking dope. And for them to land a premiere date on the exact date from last year is kind of crazy. The fact that we are getting this show on a yearly cycle is insane, especially for how much that they have to put work into with the sort of editing process, shooting process, everything. I am excited to see where this season lands, because now it's only one vision, right? I think people have to remember that, yeah, Born Again season 1 wasn't that great, but hey, that premiere and those last 2 episodes, shit, that was like peak. So now that it's all under that same team for season 2, we can now see what they're really wanting to cook with this series again, and it's already been confirmed for season 3. So obviously they have a lot of faith into what they have right now. It's probably going to open the doors again for the other Marvel Netflix shows to appear. We already know Jessica Jones is going to show up within this series, and she's probably going to get her own spin-off thing again. But yeah, I'm super duper excited. Cannot believe that they are landing it on the exact date from a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like having yearly shows is like fucking insane nowadays. So that's crazy, because you don't see that often, like at all anymore. So
now we got Minecraft movie announcement.
Yeah,
it is going to be released on July 23rd, 2027. As a not big Minecraft enjoyer of the games, I like playing Minecraft every once in a while. And as someone who went to a weekend showing of the first Minecraft movie, this shit's going to be chaos. Oh my God.
Chicken jockey.
So yeah, I mean, obviously this was going to happen, especially with how much money the first movie made, and the sort of pop culture relevance that it goddamn caused across the news outlets, on social media, and all that stuff. I knew the Minecraft movie was going to make a lot of money, despite it being live action, but the fact that it made as much as it did, it really was a wake-up call to everyone working on it, being like, hey, yeah, we have to make a sequel. So yeah, I'm probably going to see it again opening weekend just to experience that chaos. I'm going to be close to fucking 30 at that point, but hey, you know what? Seeing these dumbass kids run around the goddamn theaters is going to be a blessing and also a fucking disaster. And, you know, just don't throw food. Please do not throw food. It's okay to yell and scream, but do not throw food, because then the goddamn workers got to pick that shit up.
Yeah, please don't do that. And you know they're gonna try so hard to make another chicken jockey, and it's gonna be like really cringy. But I mean, it was already stupid to begin with. But you know, I still haven't even watched the first movie, even though I have. You know, Minecraft is a pretty important part of my life, and I just like haven't watched it. I don't really like care for it, but it's cool. It's getting a sequel. I mean, I don't know what they could do besides like, hey, Jack Black is back as Steve. You could have you could have the other character, like Jessie or whatever her name was. I don't fucking know. Like the player 2 for Minecraft. I don't know.
Alex.
So, Alex, that's what it's called. I don't fucking know. That was like after my time. I don't really know about like all that. So, yeah, pretty cool, I guess. You know, it does show that, I think I talked about this before, that sort of like video game movies are sort of becoming like the new superhero movies. Like they're just pumping those things out now. You know, originally it used to be like books. We used to get a lot of movies about book series. That sort of kind of ended during the 2010s. Then we started getting obviously a lot of superhero shit. But I feel like after Endgame came out, we've been seeing a lot more I wouldn't say high quality video game movies, but just video game movies in general, like FNAF, Minecraft, Sonic, Mario, we're getting all that shit. Now Zelda we're going to be getting. So I know some like video games are going to be like the new, like sort of gold rush for a lot of these movie producers to go for now. And, that could be both a good thing and a bad thing. We've had that before with like the 80s, 90s, we got some really shitty video game movies, but at least now they're trying a bit more now. At least you feel more authentic to what the source material is. But I guess we see how this movie turns out and what other properties are get adapted for the big screen, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, it's a fucking Minecraft movie. There you go. Alrighty, so next thing we got is Invincible Season 4. We got the new teaser. You got another them sitting down at the diner. I always like these a lot. Except now I can actually watch them when it's relevant because this is the first time I'm going to be watching a season when it's new. Yes. So it's cool to see them sort of like talking about the sort of like a recap, Adam, Eve, and Mark just talking about what happened the last season. It's animated better than the fucking show sometimes.
Yes. Oh my God, bro. The animation within this teaser, I was like, if season 4 looks like this, they might be cooking. Hold up. Because, I feel like every single year when Robert Kirkman goes up on like the Comic-Con panel, is like, the animation's better. This shit's going to blow your fucking mind. I'm like, all right, well, I'll believe it when I see it. This teaser, obviously it's just a teaser, but it looks very, very good. Like in terms of animation, the art, everything. It just feels miles better than what we've seen previously.
Yeah, and they're just talking about what's next. Get some meta jokes in there as well. It's just a good time. I know they've done this for season 2 and 3 as well, and those teasers also looked good. And then the season afterward didn't look as good. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm still excited for it. It's coming out in March. A lot big month. I guess. Goddamn, like everything's coming out in March. So that's exciting to see. I love season 3. I thought season 3 of Invincible was extremely good. It ended with like a whole bunch of action going on. So I'm excited to see what's going to be the aftermath of that, since I know sort of like the main villain is supposed to like pop up now. So that's going to be exciting. People have been really excited to see him adapted for the show. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's next for Invincible, and we'll be sure to talk about that once it's actually airing. But yeah, funny teaser. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad that Invincible has been getting adapted into animation form, because I feel like that a lot of comic book stuff just love to go straight to live action. But I think this show has done a phenomenal job within the sort of 2D animation space, even though it might not look the best all of the time. I think that the way that they're able to pump this show out on a yearly basis because of it is 100% a huge plus. So yeah, I'm excited to see what season 4 has in store. I don't necessarily have a favorite season. Maybe I like the season 2 finale the best, just because it has Mark accidentally kill Hangstrom, and that was like a huge moment for him. Obviously season 3's fight was insane, really, really cool. But for me, a lot of the stuff within the seasons kind of meshed together, but Invincible is still a fantastic show. And cannot wait to see what this next season has in store. All right, final bit of news here. Let's talk about the actual runtimes of the Stranger Things 5 episodes. So there was rumors and reports of each episode being like 90 minutes to 120 minutes long, which is like an hour and a half to 2 hours long, which each episode would be a fucking movie at that point. And I'm like, that is not what television is for. So Ross Duffer, one of the co-creators, he went on to Instagram and was like, hey, this is the actual timeline of like what the episodes are. He showed the first 4 episodes. They still hover around 1 hour each, which is great because honestly, season 4, a lot of those episode runtimes were going over an hour, and I was like, this shit is like getting a little much for me, especially when I was rewatching it earlier this year. I stopped my rewatch of season 4 because I was like, this shit is way too much for me. I'm like, I'm trying to like just watch something on TV, but it's not necessarily a TV length episode. You know what I'm saying? Right. So throughout these first 4 episodes that he showed, like I said, around 1 hour long. I think one of them was nearing 90 minutes, but it's not consistent. So hopefully that's what the season will have in store for us. I believe it is still going to be like 8 or 9 episodes long. I'm sure the finale and the later episodes are going to be even longer. But yeah, Stranger Things 5 is definitely getting more hyped up. There's press going around for it. And I'm just excited to see how the show ends, because I think anyone that's really down on Stranger Things, especially if they watched it, if you rewatch it now, you will fall in love with it all over again. Because I did that earlier this year. The first 3 seasons were a gem. Really, 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 really fun shows, even though it is kind of formulaic, if you will. But still, like, these characters and these actors really have, we've seen them grow up on screen for better or for worse. The show definitely should have ended a while ago, but schedules and sort of the pandemic definitely was a huge factor as to why this season took so long. But now that we're here, hopefully that it is able to stick the landing, because I know even the actors and the people behind the camera know that, like, we don't want to be a fucking Game of Thrones situation where they fuck up the final season and then pretty much the longevity and the legacy of the show is tainted forever.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those shows that really got ruined by its release schedules. Because I've always really enjoyed Stranger Things a ton, and I always feel kind of bad whenever people badmouth it, because I'm like, no, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's kind of what I did with the My Hero thing, where people always shit talk My Hero. I watch it over again. I'm like, nah, this shit was really good. Stranger Things, I don't have time for that right now, but like, I've always enjoyed Stranger Things quite a bit, and I really enjoyed the last season as well. So, but I do agree. Like, I think if you were pushing 2 hours for a TV episode, that's way too fucking much. So I'm glad that most of the episodes seems to be. I'm okay with the finale being like 2 hours if they want to, because that's the finale, like the last thing ever. So that's fine. But if every episode was like 90 to 120 minutes, that would have been way too much. So I'm happy to hear that most episodes are gonna be the standard hour length. Like, I think that's about what you expect from like a show like this. And yeah, like you said, I'm excited to see how this show ends. Hopefully they don't have a Game of Thrones situation where it kind of just sucks ass at the end. It can still happen, so I'm not going to hold my breath until we watch it. But I am excited to see how all this ends. It's been since like 2016, I believe, when the show first aired. So It's been 10 years or so since the show started. And, I've always been a fan, and I'm excited to see how it ends, because these kids are not kids anymore. So I think Millie Bobby Brown like adopted a child now or something.
Yeah, adopted a child. Weird. She's married. There's a lot going on within some of their lives.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I'm excited though, and we'll talk about it once it comes out. So
yeah, those are definitely. I believe it's a very interesting release schedule. They have like New Year's and Christmas. Yeah, Thanksgiving. It's like, are you trying to fuck up like the family gatherings? What's going on here? But anyways, is there anything else you'd like to add, Damian?
No, that's about everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 174. You will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.